What do you call someone who kills for the sake of saving other lives? We would typically say hero. From the outside, it seems obvious that the right thing to do is whatever you can to keep someone from hurting others, even if that means doing one of the oldest and most ultimate evils a person can do. But we don't see it as evil in this context. We see it as necessary, what needed to be done, heroism. But as Sean shows, it's not that simple. At the end of the day, someone is still dead. No, not Emma for whom the bullet was intended, but someone's life is now no more. Rick was still a person. Usually we'd let those like him who do terrible things face the justice system and whatever higher power you may believe in. It often feels more natural to let them pass judgment on what becomes of him because we don't typically see it as our place to do so. But that feeling gets disregarded when you're put in a position like Sean was. From how he responds to it after, we know Sean never meant for anyone to die. His whole intention was to protect his friends and help Rick to stop by imparting the wisdom he's earned from being in a similar position. But Rick was beyond such help. There was no turning back after he shot Jimmy to him. So as Rick raised the gun to fire, Sean tried to stop him by taking the gun away. Of course, Rick wouldn't just give it to him, and suddenly the gun fired in the confusion. Someone was suddenly shot and wouldn't walk out Degrassi. Legally, we call any culpability Sean had in Rick's death simply self-defense, and wouldn't be pursued for murder. But let's not confuse legal blame with actual responsibility. He did still technically have a hand in Rick's death. Not in the way that Spinner and Jay unintentionally did by starting Rick's shooting spree, but literally was wrestling with Rick and the gun when it shot Rick. Legality and public perception doesn't wipe clean the role Sean played in his mind. He still felt like a killer in some way. Worse than anything he'd ever done before, this time, Sean got someone killed, not just deafened a person in one ear. Regardless of the why, he still killed a person that day. He broke one of the most fundamental rules to society, and yet he's being praised for it. Naturally, this creates a disconnect of realities. One in which Sean killed someone, and one in which he saved lives. Have you ever had to put a pet down? You try everything you can to keep them healthy and to avoid it, but it comes to a point where you need to make a utilitarian judgment to end their suffering. You know it's what's best, but there's still the but. Or when a family member decides to take someone they love off life support, even when feeling that they should just wait a little bit longer. In our minds, we know that these are the right decisions, but our emotions say different. This is imposter syndrome at its peak. The weight of the details gets shifted to where the calculations come out differently depending on who you ask. What is negligible to one person may mean the world to the one at the center. Say someone praises you for your hard work, but all you can see is the typos and the less than perfect presentation of it. I get this all the time when someone gives me positive feedback towards my videos. To me, the important element is that I'm usually not writing from an outline and just putting in whatever feels right at the time when someone appreciates a point that I made or a visual I added. It's a common feeling that is exacerbated in Sean's position. What matters most to him is that he might have killed someone, not so much that he stopped a person from killing others. The facts are still the same, but weighted differently. To me, Sean is a hero. I know he didn't intend on killing anyone in that moment, and him fighting for the gun was what he thought he had to do in order to save the lives of his friends and classmates. And given how determined Rick looked as he pointed the gun at Emma before Sean intervened, we know that he wasn't going to stomp on his own. An act of physical force was the only option left when words didn't work, and there was no authority to alert in a timely manner. He did everything even a police officer is ideally trained to do in such a situation. Attempt to de-escalate first, and only use force as a last resort. But what I, or you, or his peers feel about it couldn't matter to Sean right away because all he saw was that someone was dead. I'm sure now he feels less guilt over the incident. It seems moving back to Wasaga Beach was healing for his family and his mental well-being in regards to this traumatic event. But thinking of his role in the shooting in a less blameworthy way still took time and work to achieve. Most people will focus more on their faults and how they failed to do better. Oftentimes, it takes therapy and a lot of introspection for them to see what everyone else does. I guess I bring this up because I find it to be a really interesting and detailed exploration of an idea done in a single episode. It's not often depicted or described what folks who are involved in situations like Sean was deal with afterwards. The story never ends after the day is saved. There is always tomorrow for the hero, which often brings self-interrogation of what should have been the outcome and how the hero must have been at fault somehow. I also don't see this talked about much in this context whenever the shooting comes up. Usually discussion focuses on how Rick was bullied, how Alex should have been blamed, or how it affected Emma. Whenever Sean does come up, it's because the shooting led to Sally breaking up and Sean temporarily leaving Degrassi. It's worth at least thinking about, especially because there are many Seans out there in our real world who we praise for heroic deeds. Deeds they probably can't fully appreciate because of imposter syndrome. Happy December holidays! It's still December, so I can still say that. Did you know the decade's ending? What's your favorite thing from the decade? I don't know why I'm being so sarcastic about the decade ending. I guess I'm just in a mood right now. That, and usually it's the popular thing to be all about, like, whatever the current conversation is, and all I'm seeing nowadays is, what's your favorite blank of the decade? Hey, and NotAVampyre's gotta fit in somehow. I guess this will also be the last video of the year because I don't intend to put on another one before January 1st. Yeah, that's the first of the year. So, yeah, happy end of 2019, happy end of the teens, and yeah, this decade was take it or leave it, I'll say. But I'll leave that for my end of year wrap-up video that will come after the year's already over. Until then, check out this little bit of fan art that I got from I'm a Freaking Panda. It's an ace flag and an agender flag with NotAVampyre in the foreground. I actually kind of like it. It's like, it makes me think of those dramatic moments where someone is standing in front of their nation's flag like, yes, I will do this for my country. So like NotAVampyre is making videos or saying weird stuff like this for the sake of representing ace and agender folk. I'm sorry, agender folk and ace people? But in all seriousness, I really, really like it. It's kind of dramatic in the way that I was just describing, but also, you know, fits. So again, thank you very much. I'm a Freaking Panda. I really, really love it. And I also really love your username. And if you want to give me things that maybe I'll use as my profile picture or that you want to see featured here, check out my Discord invite link. On top of finding a channel specifically for fan art, you'll also find a NotAVampyre group where you can talk to me about just about anything, and also a content stream of the things that I and my friends create, because YouTube doesn't care if you keep up with my videos, even if you subscribe and pound that notification bell. And of course, you can find me on Twitter at NotAVampyre. Thank you very much for consuming this video, and until next year.